Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool. So I was playing around with some of these small, they're 6-inch diagonal cutters. I've got a Milwaukee here, old school Klein. Interesting, the Klein, this one is like an industry standard size, and it turns out it's about the same size as this Channellock here, except the Channellock just looks smaller. And oddly, the reason you might not see as many of these, this is the E336, is because the $24 price tag here can be beaten by a larger size, like an 8-inch size might sell for less. Commonly, you'd end up with, in your electrician bag, you'd end up with some sort of heavy-duty cutter like this, and then also a smaller, more precise diagonal. This thing will cut not all day long because you're handle fatigued, but you can cut Romex with stuff like this. But really, you should have a little larger tool. And then this one has more of a precision tip, a little bit easier to drive into those spots. Classic old Kleins. The particular 6-inch, well, here is a smaller Knipex and a larger Knipex. And as you can see, here's where the Milwaukee fits into that lineup again. So there isn't one quite in that size. Interestingly, though, I was playing around with cutting with these. I've got a larger and a smaller. This is the 8-inch. Sells for about $2 more than the $32 price tag for this Milwaukee. So this Channellock's about $10 less. Again, both American made. Now, the interesting thing I discovered playing around, I was cutting some different wire here. Grab a piece of, here's some standard 12 gauge solid core. You can cut this stuff all day long. Both of them snip through it, no problem. This one actually seems to cut a little bit better, a little snappier. Now, if you go to something like Romex, I can actually cut this stuff, even though the Romex completely fills the jaws. Look at that. But even one-handed, I can snap it off should I need to. However, if you're going to be cutting a lot of this, get something big. I mean, that just makes it a lot easier. However, Milwaukee, I think they kind of dropped the ball here. This is one of their new 1,000 volt rated handles. They make a series. They make 3 different versions, or 3 different pliers that have this handle. But what I've run into with this is the handles here. It looks like they just took a traditional design, but then shrunk it made it a lot larger with the handles. But you see, I've got the Romex in there, and as I'm squeezing, sometimes the handles actually hit. Snap, powerful. But the handles actually will come together right there and stop you from being able to, cut any deeper. So as these dull, they might not work as well. But I like the idea of a very large handle, kind of diagonal cutter like that. But back to this. This is what I found kind of fascinating. I was looking at the pivots and basically how close the pivot was to the bottom of the knives. Now, the Channellock here, the fiercely made in America Channellock with high carbon USA made steel, uses 2 precision knives that basically close together just like that. That's how this thing works. Some have more of a flat spot and an anvil that closes. Snap-on's $75 version. They call this a 6-inch here. Again, a little bit different. I guess 6 inches to the bottom there. But and this one uses their vector edge technology, which is a little duller, believe it or not, but cuts very well. However, look at this. So I compared this Milwaukee here. If you look at that, just the amount of material and how close the pivot is to the cutting knives. Here's the shorter, or the smaller one. Look at that. They've really got this thing close. But, had to get this then. Check this out. Look at that. Get that to focus. There is actual metal right there. You can see it move. But that is paper thin. I don't know what's going to happen. They do claim a lifetime warranty. We'll see. But if you look at that, I don't know if a little light might help. We'll see if we can get in there. I don't know if it helps, but you can see there is just almost no metal. I've never seen anything like that, where you've got it so close to an edge. Look at that mess. That is incredible. Paper thin. So what I'm guessing is if you apply the pressure, and you can easily cut. Let me roll that on the other side there. If you think about the forces, so this handle here is pushing this way, so the force is to drive this handle away, because I'm trying to drive it in that way, and then this one the opposite. So as I'm squeezing, get that to focus, putting the pressure on it, wow. Am I going to end up snapping that thing? Now, if you didn't have two of these, two different ones, you might not be able to tell. But, having two, it allows me to kind of compare how close those are. So I'd have to say that's a QC issue, quality control. They're trying to run it as close as they can, but in this case, just a fraction of an adjustment on a machine off, and that's what you end up with, which is kind of amazing to see that. Let me know if you've ever seen anything quite like that before. I mean, it is just paper thin metal rotating right in there. Anyway, so I had a lot of fun with these, trying to, cut different materials, play around with them, feel them in the hand, looked at the profile, whether you want the little rise at the end of the handle there versus the standard bow there. I like the small ones. The big ones, a lot easier on your hand, obviously, but the small ones take up less space. And for things like automotive, etc., as long as you're cutting the stuff you're supposed to, this is probably plenty for any of the wiring, unless you're trying to go through a whole harness at once, which I have no idea why you'd be doing that. And that kind of decon. But anyway, there's some thoughts and some experiences looking closely at these little diagonal cutters. And with that, Doc out.